My name is Sebastian Pachko, and for 17 long years, a certain red 2009 Subaru Tribeca has been more than just a car to me. It's been a constant, a reliable workhorse, and a silent witness to a significant chunk of my life. You know how some things just sort of embed themselves into your daily existence? That was the Tribeca. Its slightly faded red paint, the familiar rumble of its six-cylinder engine, and even the small, almost invisible dent on the rear bumper from a rogue shopping trolley in 2017. All of it was part of the family. It was the sort of car that never asked for much but always gave everything it had, a truly dependable machine from a simpler time. So, here we are. On April 8 in Kapper en Parteien. Satpern Fe per den Dal, on Sedender Dendrist. 2026. This isn't some elaborate prank, it's the last day. I took it for one final drive around the old neighborhood this morning, a sort of farewell tour. Every turn brought back a flood of memories. I remembered strapping my kids' car seats in the back, the upholstery still smelling new. I recalled countless trips to the DIY store, the boot filled with wood and bags of cement for some ambitious weekend project. The car was there for family holidays, tense drives to the hospital, and joyous trips to graduation ceremonies. It felt strange, almost poignant, knowing that each familiar corner was the last I'd see from behind its steering wheel. As I polished the dashboard one last time, I couldn't help but feel a lump in my throat. This wasn't just metal, plastic and rubber, it was a time capsule. The faint scent of old coffee and the worn leather on the steering wheel told stories no logbook ever could. It's a silly thing getting emotional over a machine, isn't it? But this car has been the unsung hero of our family's story. It ferried us through snowstorms without complaint, and baked in the summer sun on seaside trips. Saying goodbye felt like closing a very long, very important chapter of my life, and it was surprisingly difficult. I gave the keys to the new owner, a young chap who seemed thrilled to have such a sturdy vehicle. I watched him drive it away, the familiar shape of the Tribeca shrinking until it disappeared down the road. There was a profound sense of emptiness in the driveway, a red patch of oil on the concrete marking where my old friend used to rest. It was the end of an era, a good era, filled with reliability and a certain mechanical honesty that you don't often find anymore. It was time to move on, but a part of me would always miss that steadfast old Subaru. The decision to upgrade wasn't a sudden one, it was a slow, creeping realization, much like the way the Tribeca's fuel consumption figures seemed to worsen each year. The old girl, bless her, was starting to show her age. The visits to the mechanic were becoming more frequent, and, more importantly, more expensive. Little things were starting to fail, a window motor here, an air conditioning compressor there. It was like watching a dear old relative start to need a bit more help getting around. It was becoming clear that keeping it on the road was turning into a battle against time and entropy. Furthermore, the world has changed quite a bit since 2009. Back then, a big, thirsty six-cylinder engine was perfectly normal. Now, in 2026, it feels like a dinosaur from a bygone age. The conversation around us is all about emissions, sustainability, and the cost of fuel. Driving the Tribeca, I was becoming increasingly aware of its environmental footprint, not to mention the weekly sting at the petrol station. It simply wasn't a sensible proposition anymore. The logic was undeniable, even if my heart wasn't quite ready to accept it. Change was necessary for practical, financial, and even ethical reasons. My daily commute had also changed. I spend more time in stop-start city traffic than I do on the open road, which is precisely where a large old petrol engine is at its least efficient and most frustrating. The idea of silent, effortless electric propulsion became more and more appealing. The thought of never having to visit a smelly petrol station again, of just plugging the car in at home, like a telephone, seemed like a vision from the future. It was this pull towards new technology, towards a cleaner and quieter way of driving, that finally tipped the scales. So, the search began. I wasn't just looking for a new car, I was looking for a statement about the future. I wanted something that represented a genuine leap forward, not just a slightly newer version of what I already had. I needed a vehicle that was designed for the world of today and tomorrow, not the world of yesterday. The trusty Tribeca had served its purpose admirably, but its time was over. It was time to say goodbye to the era of internal combustion and hello to something entirely different, something electric. And so, on April 2nd, the very next day, the future arrived. It came in the form of a 2026 Hyundai Ioniq 5, finished in a sleek, almost menacing black. The contrast with the old red Subaru could not have been more stark, where the Tribeca was rounded and familiar. The Ioniq 5 was all sharp angles and futuristic pixelated lights. It looked like something that had driven straight off the set of a science fiction film. Its design is unapologetically modern. A bold collection of lines and creases that somehow works together to create a shape that is both retro and futuristic at the same time. The reasons for choosing the Ioniq 5 were numerous. Firstly, the space inside is simply astonishing. Without a bulky engine and transmission tunnel, the interior feels more like a lounge than a car. The flat floor creates a sense of openness that the Tribeca, for all its size, could never match. Then there's the technology. The dashboard is dominated by two massive screens that display everything from speed to navigation with crystal clarity. It's a world away from the old analog dials and small digital clock I was used to. It felt like upgrading from a classic Nokia phone to the latest smartphone. The dealer handed me the key, which wasn't really a key at all, but a smooth, small fob. Climbing inside for the first time was an experience in itself. The seats were comfortable, supportive and made from sustainable materials. There were no familiar smells of petrol or engine oil. Instead, there was just the clean, neutral scent of newness. I placed my foot on the brake and pressed the power button. There was no roar, no vibration, just a gentle chime and the screens coming to life. It was completely silent. The quiet was almost unnerving at first, a complete absence of the mechanical life I was so accustomed to. My first impressions were a mixture of awe and slight intimidation. This was clearly a very clever, very sophisticated piece of machinery. Every button and menu seemed to offer a new feature to discover, from adjusting the regenerative braking to changing the ambient lighting color. It felt less like I was simply getting into a car and more like I was preparing to pilot a personal shuttle. This wasn't just a replacement for the Tribeca. It was a complete paradigm shift in what I understood a car to be. The learning curve would be steep, but the excitement was palpable. Driving the Ioniq 5 for the first time was a revelation. I selected drive, gently pressed the accelerator, and the car glided forward in absolute silence. The response was instantaneous. There was no lag, no waiting for the engine to build revs, just a smooth, linear surge of power that pushed me back into my seat. Navigating the city streets, the car felt nimble and incredibly responsive. The silence was the most profound change. All I could hear was the faint hum of the electric motor and the sound of the tires on the tarmac. It was a strangely peaceful and calming experience. My hopes for this new car are quite simple, really. I hope for reliability, of course, but a different kind of reliability. I hope for fewer mechanical parts to go wrong, for an end to oil changes and exhaust checks. I hope to embrace a cleaner, more sustainable way of getting around, reducing my impact on the world around me. And I hope for new adventures. This car, with its impressive range and fast charging capabilities, opens up possibilities for road trips that the old Tribeca, with its thirst for fuel, made prohibitively expensive. It feels like a gateway to a new kind of freedom. This transition is about more than just swapping one car for another. It represents a personal embrace of change. It's easy to stick with what's familiar, to find comfort in the known. The Subaru was comfortable. It was my automotive comfort zone. Stepping out of that and into the all-electric, hyper-modern world of the Ioniq 5 is a conscious decision to move forward, to adapt, and to learn. It's a reminder that progress, while sometimes daunting, is also exciting and full of new potential. It's about looking ahead rather than constantly glancing in the rearview mirror. As I sit here today, on October 13, 2025, thinking ahead to that day next April, I know it will be a day of mixed emotions. There will be sadness for what is left behind, but an overwhelming sense of excitement for what lies ahead. The old red Subaru will always hold a special place in my heart, a symbol of a life well lived. But the new black Hyundai represents the future, a silent, powerful, and electrifying future that I am now ready to drive into. It's a new chapter, and I'm holding the key, ready to turn the page and see where the road takes me next.